The Minnesota Vikings decided to make a deal with the devil, or rather, the Dallas Cowboys. They traded a king's ransom for running back Herschel Walker. Now, Walker was a good player, a fantastic player even, but what the Vikings coughed up was biblical. We're talking 5 players and 6 draft picks, including 3, count them, 3, first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a third. It was like emptying your entire bank account, your savings, your kids' college fund, and then throwing in your car keys just for good measure. And what did Dallas do with that treasure chest? Oh, just draft a guy named Emmitt Smith, a defensive back by the name of Darren Woodson, and a defensive tackle named Russell Maryland. They built the damn foundation of a 1990s dynasty, winning 3 Super Bowls, all thanks to Minnesota's generosity. Meanwhile, Herschel Walker in Minnesota? Forget about it. They didn't even make the playoffs with him, and their franchise spiraled into mediocrity. It wasn't just a bad trade. It was a unilateral disarmament by the Vikings, handing the Cowboys the keys to the kingdom. But if you think that's the worst an NFL GM could do, well, you haven't met Mike Ditka with a phone in his hand. Because our next disaster proves that even Hall of Fame coaches can have a moment of absolute, unadulterated lunacy. Imagine, if you will, being so infatuated with one player, one single solitary running back, that you mortgage your entire future. That's exactly what Mike Ditka, then coach and GM of the New Orleans Saints, did in 1999 for Ricky Williams. Ditka, bless his heart, traded his entire 1999 draft class, every single pick, plus a first and a third-round pick in 2000, just to move up and grab Williams. He even wore a wedding dress on the cover of Sports Illustrated with Williams in a tux. It was bizarre, to say the least. It was less a trade and more an act of self-immolation. The Saints went 3-13 that year. Ricky Williams had some good seasons, sure, but he also had, well, some unique interests that often pulled him away from the game. Ditka was fired a year later, leaving the Saints with no draft capital and a running back who, while talented, couldn't single-handedly overcome a completely barren roster. This wasn't just a miscalculation, it was an organizational meltdown. A desperate, last-gasp gamble that blew up in the Saints' face, setting them back years. Speaking of desperation, let's fast forward to an era where the stakes are even higher, and the contracts are absolutely mind-boggling. Because sometimes, a trade isn't just about picks. It's about a mountain of guaranteed money, too. Now let's talk about a trade so controversial, so mired in off-field drama and astronomical figures, that it immediately shot to the top of the "what the hell were they thinking" list. The Cleveland Browns acquiring Deshaun Watson in 2022. Cleveland gave up 3 first-round picks, a third and 2 fourths for a quarterback facing serious legal issues. And then, because apparently that wasn't enough, they handed him a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. Fully guaranteed. The idea was obvious. Watson was a top-tier talent, a franchise changer. But the reality? Watson has been a shadow of his former self, battling injuries and rust, while the Texans, on the other side of the deal, used those picks to build a powerhouse. They got Will Anderson Jr., C.J. Stroud, arguably the next face of the NFL, and completely revitalized their franchise. Cleveland, meanwhile, is still waiting for their massive investment to pay off, and the clock is ticking. This wasn't just a trade for a player, it was a trade for a headache and a financial straitjacket, essentially paralyzing the franchise for the foreseeable future. But it seems a certain other quarterback was also on the move in 2022, and his destination became another monument to buyer's remorse. From one QB trade disaster to another, let's talk about the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson in 2022. Denver, desperate for a franchise quarterback, sent 2 first-round picks, 2 second-rounders, a 5th-rounder, plus 3 players, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and Drew Lock, to the Seattle Seahawks. That's a king's ransom for a guy who just a few years prior was cooking. The hope was Super Bowl contention. The reality? A calamitous, historically bad season where Wilson looked lost, the offense was a punchline, and the Broncos finished dead last in the AFC West. After 2 seasons, countless memes, and more disheartening press conferences than wins, the Broncos paid Wilson an unprecedented $39 million to not play for them anymore, resulting in the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. Seattle, meanwhile, used those picks to rebuild quickly, proving once again that sometimes the best trade is the one you make by getting rid of your aging superstar at the perfect time. Denver didn't just trade for a quarterback, they traded for an albatross that choked their cap space and set their franchise back years, proving that even a Super Bowl winning quarterback can turn into a pumpkin if the fit isn't right. You'd think teams would learn not to give up a gazillion first-rounders for a single quarterback, right? Wrong. Because our next entry shows that even the smartest franchises can fall victim to the siren song of a shiny new arm. Enter the San Francisco 49ers and the curious case of Trey Lance in 2021. The Niners, already a competitive team, traded 3 first-round picks and a third-rounder to move up from 12th to 3rd overall to draft Lance. The vision was clear: a dual-threat phenom who would take Kyle Shanahan's offense to another level. The execution? Well, that's where things went sideways. Lance started only 4 games for the team due to injuries and performance, never truly seizing the starting role over Jimmy Garoppolo. Or, more surprisingly, Brock Purdy. After just 2 seasons, the 49ers cut bait, trading Lance to the Dallas Cowboys for a mid-round pick. For 3 firsts, it was a spectacular implosion of draft capital, an absolute waste of precious resources that, thankfully for the 49ers, was largely mitigated by the emergence of Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. But make no mistake, for any other franchise without a deep roster and an offensive genius at coach, this trade would have been a catastrophic franchise-derailing error. It highlights the brutal reality of quarterback evaluation and the cost of being wrong, especially when you're betting the farm. If you're sensing a theme here with QBs, you're not wrong. But sometimes, a franchise gets ruined not by who they bring in, but by who they let go. Let's shift gears to a 2022 trade that stung Titans fans like a swarm of angry wasps: the departure of A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. Tennessee inexplicably traded their ascending superstar wide receiver for a mere first-round pick, which they used on Treylon Burks, who has yet to live up to expectations, and a third-round pick. Brown was the engine of their offense, a dominant force who could single-handedly win games. He was durable, productive, and still on his rookie deal. The result? Brown immediately became an All-Pro for the Eagles, leading them to a Super Bowl appearance in his first season and transforming their offense into one of the most dynamic in the league. The Titans, meanwhile, watched their offense sputter, their quarterback Ryan Tannehill decline, and their team plummet from perennial playoff contenders to a struggling rebuilding squad. This wasn't just a bad trade. It was a decision that ripped the heart out of their team, leaving a gaping hole that is yet to be filled, proving that sometimes the worst trades are the ones where you give away a known commodity for an unproven lottery ticket. And speaking of giving away talent for a relative pittance, sometimes the worst trades are also the most perplexing, leaving fans scratching their heads in disbelief. We're going back to 2020, to a trade so baffling it sent shockwaves through the NFL and cost a GM his job. The Houston Texans sending DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals. Hopkins, at the time, was a top 3 wide receiver in his prime, a perennial All-Pro, and the cornerstone of the Texans' offense. What did they get in return? Running back David Johnson, a player whose best years were clearly behind him, and a second-round pick. Yes, you heard that right. A second-round pick, and a pass to his prime RB for one of the best wideouts in the league. This wasn't just a bad trade. It was an act of organizational negligence, widely attributed to then-GM coach Bill O'Brien. It gutted the Texans' offense, demoralized the team, and contributed significantly to their rapid descent into irrelevance. The Cardinals, meanwhile, immediately saw Hopkins revitalize their passing game. The aftermath in Houston was catastrophic, leading to O'Brien's firing and a prolonged period of rebuilding that they are only now just starting to emerge from, thanks in large part to the picks they eventually got back from other bad trades they made. This trade stands as a stark reminder that even seemingly obvious decisions can be spectacularly botched by hubris or incompetence.